Okay, so hello everyone. Good morning or good evening. Welcome back to the session, team. Hope you're all able to hear me loud and clear. So can I just get a quick confirmation, please? Yes, team, everyone. Am I audible? Everybody? Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, team. Thank you all for the quick information. So just before we get into the topics today, team, again, yesterday we were understanding about the various instructions in Git. How do we track changes in a local Git repository mainly, right? So this is what we did, team. We were understanding on the local way of implementing a change and then tracking the change with the Git. So we understood there is a three-step process, right? The three-step process is such like we make change. That is nothing but like create, modify, delete file physically on your folder which you created. And then, we keep working on that way, or the developers keep writing the code in that format on their laptops in a particular folder where the project code is there. Now, once they're done with their changes, team, you need to inform the Git to track that particular change that you wanted. So technically, there are two stages to track the change. One is moving into a temporary memory, right? That is a process given to us that gives us some advantages to the Git. So we move the files into a staging area with a git add command. Remember, it's just like understanding Git, what all the changes made, and then putting them in a temporary memory. Now, the reason is that team, like you can commit or you can actually save multiple changes together, like with the commit. Now, once you put the changes in a temporary memory like a RAM, then we move them into the disk space or a disk or your hard disk, we call it, by using the commit. Remember, team, commit places all the commits locally, or it places the data into your local disk. That is what we set it, right? And then commit ID is a reference for the changes we made for a single or multiple files. Save it your hard disk, we called it. Now, this is the three-step process, team. We did it multiple times yesterday initially, and then we tried understanding the various commands, right? About the git add, git commit, git status, and then say git log, right? And then we understood all these commands, especially. And then we also understood about git show command. Now also about how do we revert certain changes if you want to revert a change with a git revert command, and so on. Then after that, we also understood that multiple commits together, right? Multiple commits together on your things. 17. Yeah. Multiple commits together. We said it is going to be a single version. And then after that, we also understood about how do we tag that specific version with a git tag command. How do we delete a tag if you want it? That is also we discussed, right? Git tag -d something. Now, once we done with all those changes in the local team, remember that we also wanted to work with remote for collaborating with your team, right? So means whatever the changes you made in your local computer, local laptop server, we call it, we must publish them into a remote server that where we can share the code between multiple developers from your same project. So this is where, team, we talked about something called as the GitHub, right? GitHub repository or account creation. Then how do we log in? How do we initialize a new Git repository? Now, once we initialize a new Git repository here, we also understood about how do we configure the local with the remote. With something like a git remote add something. We set the local with the what is remote address. Then we started pushing the code, right? We started pushing the code. We started pushing the tags, whatever we wanted. This is what all we had done yesterday, team, about, we worked with Git, right? So I believe, team, everybody is clear until this point, the way we publish the code to a Git remote. Now, once the code is being published to the Git remote here, right? So this is what you see, that whatever it is on the remote as well, the same commits, right? The same files, the same code that you had within your local server, including all the commit IDs like commit 1, commit 2, commit 3. all of them got published onto the remote server. And that's what we saw it very clearly on the GitHub. The files, folders, including the commit IDs you made, everything got properly propagated or pushed into the remote and are being tracked on the remote server as well now, which is nothing but a GitHub, right? So this is where we stopped yesterday, team, and I believe that everybody is clear about everything that we discussed just now until this point, right? So any questions before I move on to the next topic with Git again, or anything, team, please let me know. We will be working on Git today again, understanding the various remote Git operations. Then a few more concepts in Git about the Git branching. That is what is the agenda for today mostly. So yes, team, any questions? Is everyone clear about everything we had? So can you increase the font size on CLI? Right. So I'll try that, not a problem. I need to go here, files. I believe this is good for you. I hope this is good, Harsha. I tried increasing it. Yeah. Good. Right. So this is about the discussions team we had it, like the way we understood on publishing. Now we also understood about how do we create some personal access token team on the GitHub, that helps us to use as a password. Remember that I've shared the document as well yesterday on how do we create some personal access token using which we always try to publish the code. And of course, we also stored these credentials in your local server so that you don't need to put every time again with something called as the Git credential helper. Means when you do this configuration to the Git and the local, it will store the username and password you entered after you set this configuration so that it doesn't need to provide the same username and password over and over again. Now, this is what we said yesterday, and let's move on. While tagging, can we select only few selected commits rather than all the commit made till then? No, that's not how it works, Upendra. Whichever the commit you tag it, it considers all the below commits all together as the specific version. You cannot select any of the specific commit IDs together as a specific version. That flexibility is not given to us. Now that's your choice, Ramesh, right? If you're running the Git commands as a root user, then store the root user, understand that, Ramesh, whichever the user that you're executing the Git commands or a Git push command, if it is the root user, then you have the root user ID to be stored. If you're executing the Git push command as a Ubuntu user, then you have to use the Ubuntu public key to be added there. Okay. Depends on the user with which you're running the Git push command. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, right. So moving on with the next thing here, team. Now assume that, team, so far you are the only person as per our logic what we are trying to do. Everybody, team, please put your questions on hold. Once I finish a topic, then you can ask your questions again, please. So here, team, as of now, we are working on one instance. Assume that this is one developer or a DevOps engineer who's working on his team so far. Now, we know that now, how do we make local? How do we create remote? How do we push? As long as you're one person, that doesn't cause any problems. But let's say that there is a second person who you hired for your team, for your support, means you got a lot of work. Then you looking for a more help from the project so that you hired a new person now. Now, whenever you hire a new employee, new person, say that that person will also get a particular server or a laptop or anything is assigned to him. Say it is also some kind of the VM EC2 given to him, for example. So he also set up some kind of the similar type I'm talking. So here, Ubuntu Linux. Now assume that he also installed the local VCS. Assume that there's a second developer who's working on the same project, Git client, which is going to act as a local VCS for him. Now the scenario here is that since the project is already in progress, right, and the project is already being available on the remote server, now what this person has to do here? Now this person needs to work on the same project, so he doesn't need to create anything in local initially. Remember, he needs to get a copy from the remote server, isn't it? That is what we want, right? We must ask him to take a copy from the remote and start working on that itself. Now, how does the developer two or some other person can get the whole copy from the remote to the local? Assume that you already have installed the local VCS. It's like the downloading now. Now, how can he download? We already talked about uploading. Now, how can he download? Now, remember, team, download in the sense that it is kind of a full copy downloading. You do it. Right? Yes, team. I think, team, can somebody confirm that we're all good with the voice and the screen? The couple of people are not sure their problem it is. Guys, please check that the screen is full and everything is good with the screen as well as this one. Yeah, please. Thank you, team, for the confirmation. Those who are reporting that issues, team, please check your side what they are exactly happening. Okay. So anyway, getting back to the topic here, that we are talking about how do we download the code from the remote server to the local developer's machine. Again, it means when you have nothing in your server, team, we talk about an option called as the clone, not a pull option. Basically, a download is always equal to a code clone option. Now, what does this mean here? When you have nothing, in your local, in your server locally, right? When I say locally, team, which means that on your laptop, you may call it. It means you must use, right? A clone should be used, right? Say that used when you have nothing in your local server, or we say that the first time use, first time use, first time, right? The first time we use always the git clone operation to clone, get the entire copy. Again, remember, team, I'm telling you as a scenario, think about a situation. This is my first server that you have it. Now, where you already had some content here. Let's say that, team, there is another server we created the other day, that the virtual machine 2 or a VM2, I call it. Say that I'm going to log into this now. Now assume that, team, that is altogether a different server, which I'll be logging in. So on the right side, team, let me tell you again, I'm just using the same approach that you can log into multiple servers at any point of given time, opening the different terminals. So say that Ubuntu at the rate that IP address. Say yes. Right now here, team, we are just logged in to the other server. Now assume that, team, here, the change that you can see, I think the 72 is the first person and say the 203 is the second person. Now that's how you can remember the, team. There are two different servers we are working on right now. Just for the scenario, team, I'm taking that scenario. Now assume that, team, this guy also installed Git software already. Say that a Git -- version. Okay, great. There is a Git client is already installed. If you want with the latest version, you may do that as well. Now, once this version is also installed in Git, team, it is necessary that he also need to configure the username and the email accordingly. Say that we're going to use the same approach we did for the developer, the first person, the global, so user.name, say that XYZ. Now I'm just giving some name, team. That's it. It is mandatory that you configure them accordingly always. Now, if I say that XYZ at gmail.com something, Now, understanding is that the second person came into the picture. He got a system. He installed a Git client. He configured his own details to track the changes when he works on it. But this is not that team now, right? There is nothing on his laptop or something right now. In order to get the code from the remote server now. Remember, team, for the first time, when you do not have any project folder with you or nothing with you, we always take the URL. Now you can take the URL from this one team directly in the browser, or you may click on the code button, which is in green color here. This will give you an option like the HTTPS and the URL. The project URL is what we call it here. Take this one and then try to execute a command called as the git clone, and you just give the URL. This is what you do, team. Now, this is the first thing that the person has to do to get the entire project onto the local. Now, what this do, it automatically creates the My Project folder for him, and it automatically gets in and initializes the local repo, which is like the .git, and then gets all the code that is available on the remote. Remember, all the code available on the remote is also being downloaded into the local repo, right? Now, this remote team, this is completely a local repo, again, maintained by the person two here. Now, along with this team, it is not just about the code he is getting it, but he also getting something called as the. So since we made a repository as a public here, that's a good question, Vera. So since the repository is public, we do not need any key or a username. But if it is a private repository, then you must need to provide the credentials as well. Okay. Since it was a public repo team, remember, the repo we made is a public. That is the reason it didn't ask me for any credentials, since anybody on the internet can access it now without way. So that is the reason. And thing is that once he get it, it is not just about the code and initializing local, but he also gets all the commits made by the other developer. Like you see this now, the commit IDs, what we made on the other system is also came up. Now, if I check this one team, git log -- one line, now you see that it is exactly the same code, same commits that are available on my, say that the developer 1 machine, and also on the developer 2 machine, and also on the remote, right? You see the team, there are 3 different repositories now maintaining a source code along with that version tracking. This is the idea that we need to understand. Yes, team, everybody understood now the purpose of the git clone command. What does it do? And then how does it work? Right? Any questions on the git clone command and how do you understand that, team? Please let me know, we can talk. So to only upload, we need access token, and download, we don't need, since it is public. That's right, Ganesh. If it is public, while downloading, while cloning, it doesn't ask you for credentials, because if it is credential mentioned, means you are a private thing, right? If it is credential-less while downloading it, it is called the public. Anybody on the internet can see, can download, can utilize that code accordingly. So this is the logical idea, team. Remember that. Now, I believe that everybody is clear on the git clone command. Everybody, any questions? We can change it later, Ganesh. You can go to the project settings and change the settings of the project if you do want. So if the second user makes any change and does not use a git add command, then version could not track. Obviously, Gopala, right? If the developers are now going to make any changes, now they will have to, understand. They will have to add and commit. Now that's what I'm going to show you. I'm just asking you that, are you all clear about the git clone command now? Any confusions on the git clone command? No? Yes, team, everybody? Okay. So if you're clear with the git clone command, team, now let me talk about now when multiple developers are working on the same project, how does it look like now? Say, assume that now the developer 2 is going to start making the change in his local machines. So he may add a new files, he may modify an existing file, whatever it may be, the change again. Remember, Let's say that he will create a new file, say dev2.txt something, just a scenario I'm talking. Now, whenever he makes some change, the process for everybody would remain same, that the developer two also now need to add in the local, right? And also should make a commit in the local always, doesn't matter. Say this is a dev2 change something. Now, as soon as he making the change, remember, he's not dependent on the network as long as he doesn't want to share his code with anybody. The version track, the change tracked or committed in the local with a new commit ID. As you can see, we created a new file, we added, we committed, and on the left side, you see that the developer one still have the old code itself. Now, this is the local code. This is the local code for him. And the remote has something different, maybe as well. Now, once you always have this particular thing is done, I mean, the developer two now wants to share the code with developer one or anybody in the team. The approach is to upload into the remote again. That is what to do it. So for that, again, team, remember, since we directly cloned, we might not want to add the remote again because we already got the code from the remote itself. The remote is known to the local already. So the only thing we need to do is that now we do a git push -u origin main, same thing, same approach which developer is did. Now, since we didn't configure any credential helper for this guy yet, so let's say that it is going to ask me the credentials still. I'm using the same credentials team. Assume that in the real time, every developer may use a different credentials. But since we are uploading right now, this is what the idea is. So now the token which we had created yesterday is this one. So I take this one and I paste it, simple, and enter. Now that will start publishing the code into the remote server. That is what we did. Now, if I go to the remote now, you will see that there is a new commit made, the new 9 commits come up. Now there is a file that we pushed as well. The developer 2 pushed is called as the dev2 text, right? This is the file that is now being published by the developer 2 into the next change. So this is what it is. Now you see that the developer 2 and the remote server has the exact same code, but the developer 1 is actually missing the change made by the developer 2. Can I say that, everybody? We don't need to do that, Veera. That's what I said. The git clone command will create directory, will initialize local repository. Everything will be done, taken care by the git clone for you. You're already getting a repository. Remember, you don't need to explicitly initialize the repositories again, right? Which is an existing repository, you're taking a copy of it. That's why we don't need to reinitialize it on the VM2 or the developer 1. Yes, everybody? That's right. Now remember, team, this time the change here, we're talking about the developer 1 needs only the changes made by somebody else because he already had a partial code in this local. Now he's missing only the latest updated code from the remote. Remember that? Now, what do I need to do that? Now, this is where team developer 1 now needs to do something, not a clone here, right? Now we're going to do something called as the pull. Now, pull is also some kind of the download option only here, but how it is different than the clone, right? Now, remember, team, pull, right? We call it as the git pull command, basically. Now, remember, team, git pull helps to download only changes, right? Only changes into an existing local repo, right? Existing a local repo, you may call it, which means that there should be a local repo should be available, and then you must execute this one, right? This is the idea. Team helps to download only the changes, or a latest updates, you may call it, or we can say that the latest updates made by other developers, other dev into your machine, basically, or into your into your server again. Now, this is the idea, team. Remember, whenever you have to download only certain changes, when you have already a repo, right? Now, remember again, when just an idea, when you already have a local repo, right? That is the idea, you may call it again. So when you already had a local repo like developer one scenario here, now in order to get that change made by the developer two, right? We just do some command called as the git pull. Now the git pull is a simple command, team, remember. Now you don't need to tell the remote or anything to the git pull. If you want to mention, you can mention it, but this is the idea. If you want to say that git pull origin main something, or you may want to simply run the git pull. That will download the change. Remember, it is trying to download a dev2.txt, update the commit. It is creating that file in the local repo automatically for you. If you see that now the developer one also got the dev2 change. Now, along with the commit history as well will come up every time you pull, remember, every time you pull the latest commit ID made by the developer two on his local, now came onto the developer one machine, right? So this is the idea, team, the way you can actually understood about how the multiple developers will start working, right? And then they will start sharing the code and then commits. Whenever they want to change it, they push it. Whenever they want to download it, they do a git pull always. The git clone is a one-time activity, team, remember. It is a first time use only, as I said here. The git clone is only one-time activity when you have nothing in your local, then you do a git clone. But for the subsequent changes that you need to download every day, because every day developers will make many changes, team, every day before you start your work, it's better practice that you do a download, which is a pull command, assuming that you already have something. Then you start making your changes, then you go on push your changes as well accordingly. So this is just an options, team. We understood now about the git push, git clone, and we also talk about the git pull command. These are the three important commands that you will be using it as a DevOps engineer, maybe regularly if you get a role accordingly. Okay. So this is the idea. If you made any changes on dev one, and if they pull the code from dev 2 VM, what happens? It is going to merge the code, right? Unless if it is merged, committed in the local Vita, remember? But if you're talking about, is it the same file or is it like a different code, right? If it is a different files, there will be no issue, correct? As long as, say, the developer one made a change on a different file number, say the XYZ file, the developer two made a change on the ABC file. Now it will be downloading that ABC file change into the developer machine, simple. That is what happens, right? It just gets the code and merges, combines the both codes in the local server or the local developer machine here. That's what happens. Okay. This is the idea. Remember, now you understood about the git pull, git clone, git pull, git push commands. We had it yesterday and we discussed now. Now, these are the idea, team. Remember, there is one another option that I'll be showing you now on the remote. It is on the remote, team. There is nothing to do with the local. I hope, team, everybody have your Git accounts created. Yes. If you haven't created one, team, you may start creating as well. Right. Now, the project URL, which I've been uploading, I shared in the chat window. You all can open that link, right? So when you open that link, team, everybody, when you all opening that link, do you see the same thing as you see on my screen, everybody? Yes, I want you to do this one thing with you. So yes, do you see the same thing, everybody? Now, on the top right, on the top right here, you see some option called as fork. Do you see the fork option on the top right? Just below the bell icon on the top, there is a fork option that you see. Everybody? Yes, click on the fork. Just click on the fork and see what happens. Everybody, team, click on the fork option that you see. Again, remember, in order to enable this fork option, you must be logged into your GitHub accounts. Remember, you need to log in, then only the fork option will be enabled. If you did not log in, then that will not be enabled. So be aware of that one, then try to hit a fork. Now I see team, a couple of people started forking the repo. Now, what do you mean by forking the repo, right? I see 3 people fork the repo. I see that who are all taking this. Now on the about option team here, you see the forks, right? I click 5 forks, right? So this is what you see team here, the forks that is done basically. Now I don't see who are all forked actually. Oops, I'm also forking. This one. Now it should show me the forked people as well. Now why is it not showing? Inactive, and say there is some kind of the settings team recently updated open issues active. Now I'm unable to show it in the forks option, I think. Okay, so the understanding is that team, when you fork it, you all seeing that there is a copy happened into your own account, right? That's right. So the option here is that the fork we're talking is that this is just like a clone. Remember, the option is that basically it is gonna, it is going to make a copy into within your account basically. Now that's called as a fork option. Remember team, fork is same as, remember the fork on GitHub page, right? Remember team, it is, right? I call it as, it is the same as clone, but, right? It makes a copy from my account, right, into your account. It is like a full copy team that you did it. That is what the idea is, right? It makes a copy from my account into your account, basically. That is what is called as a fork. Means when you would like to say that the idea of the fork here is that let's say that you see something today in the GitHub, there is a lot of information that you liked it, right? Because this is being maintained by me team. For example, the lab repository, which I shared with you all, right? I think I shared a repository with you all, which is the labs basically. Now, where I have all the DevOps related lab materials documented and everything is there. Now, today I made it public and I gave it to you. You are all able to access this one. That's good. But what if I make this repository tomorrow private, or I delete this repository from my account? Would you be able to access it? Means you will be able to lose all the data here as well. You cannot access it. Now, some scenarios like that, if you want to make a copy of this one, first of all, into your own account, you just click on the fork option. So even if I delete this entire repo now, you have a copy of it in your own account so that it will be easy for you to refer anytime you want again, right? That is the idea. Remember team, the fork is an option that help you to quickly copy, the contents or the projects from one account into another account on your things, which is like now your account, right? And say that my project, that is what happened, right? And all the files, all the commits will be same that you see that, right? A file 2, etc. and say that a C1, C2, C3, everything will be there. So this is the idea team that you can think about. Now, this option is actually called as the fork option. The fork will help you copy from my account or one's account into another's account. That is the simple logical idea. The fork option is only on the GitHub, remember. The fork option is enabled only on the GitHub. This is like just the UI things you have. So this is the logical idea team. Remember that about how do you understand on the Git fork option, right? So the Git fork option in general team is about, you want to be a contributor towards the open source projects, the general idea why the fork is being used really in the real time is about, remember team, there are many open source projects that are being supported by many contributors across the world, right? Now, those people around the world team are not going to push into the direct repository, direct open source repository. They fork the repository, they do some changes, and then they propose the changes to the original repo account. Now we'll talk about what is called proposing a change to original repos as well. That's a simple logic about maintaining the secrecy, or ensuring that the Git repos are not crashed or not messed up with many contributors developing actually. So this is the idea team, the Git fork option that you may think about it right now. Git fork option is used for the open source projects mostly in the real time. But again, I hope that I'm now clear on Git push, Git clone, Git pull, and about the Git fork. Are there any doubts on these four, any doubts on these four options that we discussed so far? Anybody? Yes, team. Anybody having any questions? Are we all clear about whatever we discussed until this point? Please say something, team. If you're good, say that you're yes, and we can continue further. Good. Okay. I cannot do the Git fork again, Karthik. The only thing that you need to do is that you need to copy my URL, put it into the browser, right? This is the URL that I'm giving you. Now, once you go to your project or you click on that link, you see an option called fork on the top, right? Now you need to click on the fork. That means you're copying my project into your account, okay? So just that, I pasted the URL, open it. Before you click on the fork, you must be logged in. That is what I'm telling it. Now, once you're logged in, just click on the fork. It will go ahead and then create a copy within your account. Postman push patch and Git push patch both are same or different. Now, with a Postman, you send a request to the APIs, right? Normally, that's what you do it. Do you do the GitHub push from the Postman, Verma? See, the push, the Git push, GitHub push is something like you're just updating the code. But with a Postman, you normally perform the actions like get data, delete data, modify data. That is what the Postman, you send a request with certain data, upload something. Kind of the actions are performed with the Postman. That is altogether a different thing when compared to the Git push or a GitHub. That is what you understand it. Right, Verma? That's a different thing. Postman is a tool for testing some APIs, but not about the GitHub push. It is just about coding, saving the code only. Right, so that's a different thing. I think everyone is getting two screens. With my name. Is that everybody seeing two screens, team? Because I shared only one screen. But that might be your setting, guys. Because that is what you need to do it, not just one. No, there is some setting on the what do you call the this is Zoom meeting, right? You need to change some Zoom settings to see the full screen. Because I'm sharing only one screen, you should be seeing only one screen. From your side, your Zoom should have some settings to show only what is the presenter is showing it, because I'm the presenter here. And you need to configure to see the only what presenter showing it and hide everything else. All right. That is what you need to do it. Okay. Check the settings. I'm not sure exactly what they are. Maybe if you see some kind of the more option, another this one. It's not two screens. It's the same screen on left. You have your name. That's what I'm saying it. Because if I see on my screen, guys, what I shaded, because the way I'm seeing it, and I'm also looking the what do you call the preview of my screen, I see only one, because there is a preview that I can see that where I actually check what all the things should be shown to this one. I mean, on my preview, what I'm seeing here is that technically, this is what I'll show you. Take a second. Let me take a screenshot and show you what is that I'm seeing it on my, just give me a second. So if you see my screen, guys, now there is something that I'm showing you. There is a preview, right? Now, if you see this green color box, the preview that shows to me only that my screen means what I'm showing exactly, but the other settings you have to do on your own Zoom settings, guys. There is nothing I can do with your Zoom configurations externally. That is what you can do. You can see my preview, guys. You can see my preview, right? This is what should be visible to you. Because if there is something else you're seeing apart from this green color window, that means that you're actually need to do some settings on your Zoom to see exactly what is on there. Okay. There's nothing like, even if I have an extended window or something, the way I shade the screen, right? It is exactly what it has to show. Please do check your Zoom settings on your side, or maybe reach out to this one. Right. So thank you, team, understanding that one. Okay, that's good. Let's continue here, team, again, right? So if you have something edited, something is done on my account, team, you see that there is an option that will pop up. So here, let's say that I'm opening up another browser, which is I'm going to log into another account, guys. Just give me a second, just to show you that. Nareshwarthi. So here, team, I logged into a different account now on my Safari browser. So Google Chrome has the account called Lead DevOps, whereas the Safari has the different account called as this one. Now, what I'll take it here, I'll take the account of the Lead DevOps project, right? And I'm opening up here now. Now, this is public, so I can see that, no option. Now, as a Nareshwar now, as the Nareshwar account, let's say that I click on the fork. Now, what happens basically, it starts creating a copy within my thing. Let's say you just create a fork, done. Now, what does it do? It is making a copy from my Lead DevOps account. It is also shows that from where you actually forked. The original project is this, and this is a copy in your own account right now. This is the idea. Now, if there is something changed on the Lead DevOps after you did a fork, remember again, the question here is that once you made a fork today, tomorrow I'll make some change. After a week, you came back and see there are some changes on the Lead DevOps account. Now, how do I get all those changes to my account now again? There is a simple option below the code button. You see there's a sync fork option, right? You see the sync fork option, everybody? There is an option given to you, right? So if you click on this branch is not behind upstream Lead DevOps main, which means that you're up to date. If there is a change, it will tell you, then you just click on the sync fork. It automatically gets those changes again from the Lead DevOps account into your own account again, okay? You can be up to date with the original by just clicking on the sync fork option here. That is the idea. I hope that clears your doubt, Raviteja and everybody else as well. So please do use such options accordingly. So now we're talking about, this is the idea, team, on the way we create and understand the various settings. But again, team, as of now, this project is only or can be used by me only. Means that again, I'm the only person who knows the credentials for this, my account. And I'm the only person who can upload code into this one. I'm talking about that push now. Now, what if I want to give you guys access, or if I want some other developer to push this one again? No, you cannot do that, Amit. There is no git fork on the command line. There is only this one, because I'm the only one having the token, this one. So the idea that I'm giving you is that, team, how can I provide access to the same repo by multiple different developers? Maybe that is what happens, right? In the real time, one project where multiple developers will be pushing it. So here it is, team. So in order to enable the access to multiple developers, we can go to the project settings. I'm just showing an option, team, the way you can add a different person to push the code into this one, right? Guys, I think you all need to check your Zoom settings, guys. Some people keep asking me about the font size. I have it in full. I'm not sure, but that will happen, Raju. That will happen, right? So here, team, again, I'm showing to you that I'm going to my project. I'm talking about how to ask, how do I ask you guys to push the code to the same lead DevOps my project, maybe. Now, to do that one, team, here, we do the settings. Go to the project settings, team. There are many options under the project settings where you see something like an access, right? Access is something, team, you can provide some other person access to the same project where he can go ahead and then do this one. Say collaborators is the option that I go. It's just asking me the access confirmation one more time because I'm changing the project settings, team. It is reconfirming it. Now, the idea here is a, team, when I click on the collaborators, it says that who has access, means who all can actually push the code, who all can actually push the code to the same lead DevOps my project. As of now, it is the owner, which is the lead DevOps only. But again, if I want some other person also to contribute this one, then we say add people. Then you just need to enter the other person's the GitHub ID. In my case, the other one, which is this one, the one which I logged in on this one, say invite collaborator, that you see it. Add Nareshwar to this repository, which I do. Now, when I add this person, team, remember, this person will receive a notification. Remember, this person will receive a notification on his email saying that, hey, lead DevOps want to be a contributor to his project as well. Now, you just need to log into your account, team. I may not be showing that login, but I'll do here. So I'm doing it, team, on the other screen here. Let me give a minute. I'll approve this one. Remember, team, it is a pending invite. So you have to approve that invite, basically. Now I'll just show you one thing, team. Just give me a second. I'm forwarding this to another one. Just give me a second, team. I'll show you. Okay, so here it is, team. You can see on my screen now that this is how you receive it. It says that Lead DevOps has invited you to collaborate on the Lead DevOps My Project repository. And you have to see the invitation. You have to, right? You can accept it, whatever you want to do it actually. So if I see the invitation, now it gives you some access, whatever it is you wanted, and then you need to access it, right? So this is how, team, you may just see the idea about how you can invite people. Now, once, you actually invite the people, they can start accepting that, right? Now, once they accept it, they will start, do this one. Now, this is the idea, team. Let me approve that request as well. Just give me a second. Just give me a second, team, again. I'll just approve that. Looks like I forgot my password, team. That's what I'm struggling with. Just give me a second. I forgot my password for the other email, team. Sorry. Now let me try the one last one. Okay, so looks like I got the one. Looks like there is some problem with my account, team. So okay, sorry, team. I forgot the other password. Now it will take some time. But the idea here is that, team, you got the things right. So when you receive a request, basically, I'm unable to log into my other account, team, which I just did it. So the problem is that if I log in, then I'll be able to approve the request, but that is not happening. So technically, team, here you see that there is an accept button. So you can accept or decline this invitation. You can also head over to this one to check the repository visit and do this one. But the idea here is that, team, simple, that you just have to, accept the request. Once you accept the request, you will be authorized, to push the changes to this account as well. That is a simple idea about the way you can add multiple collaborators. Remember, team, only the collaborators can push the code to the other account. Means the person who are the actual people who are added as the collaborators can push the code. Otherwise, they cannot do it. So this is the idea, team. Now, I hope you got some idea about how do we maintain collaborators, how do we add multiple people to a single project, and all of them can push the code to the remote repository using your own credentials, team. Remember that you need to create your own access token for your GitHub account, and then use your own user ID and access token to push my repository as well. That is the logical idea about how do you do this. So can we have some of the people have read-only access to repos if it is a private? Yes, if you go to the private repositories, you can start configuring the level of access. Also, you can do that, Ganesh. For that, you need to go for the GitHub Enterprise, actually. Means this is a public domain, which does not allow you to do that, Ganesh. When you have a private repositories itself, like a GitHub Enterprise or maybe Bitbucket or the GitLab solutions, there you have specific ways of setting up which user has the read permission, which user can read and write permissions. All those things are configurable when you move to the original enterprise versions, actually. But this is the simple idea, team, about working with GitHub, understanding the various things here about how do you push, how do you pull, how do you clone, fork, and adding collaborators to the project. This is what we do it. Okay. Just that, team, once you get other account, maybe you can try creating multiple GitHub account, use one as a source, one as the collaborator, and then try to implement the change accordingly. But this is the idea, team. I hope you all got some fair understanding about how do you provide access to multiple people. I can even add n number of people here, team. And I need to add one by one since I'm using a public or the free source. If it is a private like source, you may add n number of people at once as well. That is a different case. But the idea in the public case, you can add only one user at a time here. And then if you have 10 users, add one by one. Ask all of them to check their emails and approve the request. Then they can start pushing the code here. This is the understanding. So I believe I'm clear on what is this called the collaborators on the GitHub, and then how do they help allowing access to multiple people on the same project. So any questions on this one? Yes, team, any questions on what are collaborators here and then how do we understand? Are we all clear? Okay, great. So with this understanding, team, maybe let's go for a quick short break for 5 minutes. We will be back in 5 minutes and then we start discussing the next concept and Git. Okay. So we do not have enough time to discuss that way. How many days of our sprint? Our sprint is for 21 sessions or 22 sessions mostly. So your team, so I'll be starting the timer in 5 minutes. So please be back in 5 minutes. See, Satya, technically, you are having around 8 modules to discuss, right? Like Git is a module, Jenkins is a module, and so on. So we cannot discuss 8 modules in 8 or 10 sessions, right? We have 22 sessions technically. Mostly the 20 sessions will be covering all those modules. So some sessions may extend like this, so don't worry about it. Now, whenever a topic is finished, that's when you can go and do your assignments on your LMS. Until then, avoid what it is showing you. Just follow, we'll go step by step only. Okay. Okay, so hello team, hello everyone, welcome back again. Hope you're all back as well, team. Right, just give me a quick information so we can start with this session again. Right, so thank you guys for the quick information. So a few people requested me to add their IDs to my project, so I added them. Now I also got approved my account team, which is Nareshwar T. Now I was able to recover the password and I updated just a little quick in the break. But again, team, this is how once a collaborator is approved, then the user can start publishing the code to the remote. That is the idea. So keeping this aside, team, now talking about the collaborators, for those who have given, you may try pushing the code and we will see that later. So this is the idea, team. Now, so far we were working on the various options with the GitHub, where we tried understanding about the different ways of different ways of understanding, pushing the code, cloning the code, pulling the code, everything. Now we can see this team as of now, git pull, that you see that on the developer 1 machine, it is up to date. And also on the developer 2 machine, this is up to date. That's what you can see that, right? Now, along with this team, which means that the remote also has the right set of code, which is there on developer 1 and developer 2. Now, with this understanding, team, let's try understanding a scenario here. Let's try understanding a simple scenario on a topic called a merge conflict. Now, what is called merge conflict, right? This is what the idea is. Now, how does the merge conflict will arise and how do we understand the merge conflict? Let's focus, team. I will add your emails later because we unnecessarily waste some time on that one since you know already. You may try it. You can ping me at the end and I will try to grab from the chat and I'll add it later. So just follow me, understand the topic right now. Now about creating these two terminals, this is a feature in the Mac with item application. If you use mobile system, you can use that on the Windows machine. That is the different thing. So out of the topic, keep that aside. Now, understanding team here, when two developers are working, remember team again here, we're talking about when two developers are working. I just left on the team. Sorry. So assume that everybody is local, means every developer has their own laptop, like you have your own laptop, I have my own laptop. So everybody works independently. They may make changes on any file that is available in their local servers, right? So because they are completely copies, you get it. Here 1.java is a copy, and here also 1.java is a copy somewhere different. Now assume that when they are working parallelly, there is a possibility that both developers can modify a file like this. Say the developer 1 modifying a file called 4.java something. Now I say that, hi there. Assume that he's writing some code by opening the 4.java, something like this. And once he done developing something, wrote something, as usual, once he saved the code, he needs to add and commit. That is first in the local will happen. Say we're going to do a git add dot and say that a git commit -m and say that modified 4.java. This is by dev1. I'm just giving the information accordingly. So assume that while the developer 1 working on his own laptop, now there is a possibility the developer 2 will also start working on the similar file. Same file, not the similar file. Assume that the developer 1 modified 4.java, exactly the same file in his local. Now the developer 2 is also started modifying, writing some code in this scenario. Say 4.java, the developer will started it. Now he also said something like, hi there. I say that something like, how are you? From developer 2 something. Now he wrote something different. Now, let's say that he also saved the content, right? He also saved the content here. Simple. Now, he also will do a add and commit, for example, git add dot and say that a git commit hyphen m. See here, modified again for.java. This is part dev2. Now, the understanding here is that team, remember, as long as they are working in their local environments or the local repositories, there will be no issues, right? But assumption is that now, team, if these guys are trying to publish the code into the same repository on the remote, which is the lead DevOps, remember, both the developers are now working on the same repo, which is like lead DevOps my project, and he also needs to push into the same. Now, there will be an issue here, team, because when multiple people are developing or working on the same files, Git would confuse. Say, whoever is pushing first of all. Remember, team, this is the push now, means that you're uploading the code from your local server to the remote server. It is also called as a merge code from the local repo to the remote repo. Remember, a merging is nothing but updating the code from local to the remote or remote to the local as well. Anything, team, you do a git push, it is a merge. Git pull, it is a merge technically. Internally, it is called as a merging happening. Code merge is happening from one local repo to the remote to the local as well. That's how you understand. Now, assume that this guy is trying to push now to the remote like this. Now, remember, team, if both developers are pushing at the same time as well, remember, team, it cannot happen. Both the developers are pushing at the same time. May be happening, but in that case as well, whoever gets the connection to the remote, first of all, their code gets updated to the remote without any issues. You see that developer one saved his password, he pushed it, he is able to push the code quick than developer two. Now, once the developer one code is updated to the remote and the remote is updated with that. Say if I go here, now you see the 4.java modified by the developer one, or you see the code which is high there from developer one. Means whatever the code done by the developer one is uploaded. Now the same thing, the developer two is now uploading it. He's a little slow. He have to enter the credentials like this. The access token, he has to do it manually. He may configure as well for the quick thing, but this is the idea. Now you see, team, the developer two will start receiving a error now. Remember again, the developer two will start receiving an error. It's very clear. It says that it is rejected, right? It says that failed to push some references, some code from your local to the remote. The reason it says that updates were rejected because the remote contains the work that you do not have locally. Means whatever is in the remote you do not have locally. That's what it says. This is usually caused by another repository pushing to the same reference, which means that another person is pushing the same thing. You may want to first integrate the remote changes before you pushing again. Remember, team, you always have to up to date with the remote before you push to it. So it is a recommended best practice is that you always have to pull before you push it, right? Assuming that there are certain changes can be there on a remote after you took it. So before you push it, you always pull it. Now, this is what the remote is telling it. There is no other option for the developer to now. He has to pull, no other question, right? Now, if he is trying to do something, git pull, that is not even allowing that, Ganesh, right? How can you push if it is rejecting, first of all, right? Does that allow you to push it, first of all? No, right? Remote will reject the changes, but never allow you to push. But if you push, there is no question of pushing itself now, right? Until you resolve that, until you get the change. No, it will not. That is what I'm going to show you now. If it is overwriting, then what is the purpose of get here? It is not going to overwrite. Now you do this git pull, right? Okay, it is asking you to do something before you do it. Now, how you want to get the code and update in the local? It says that there is some option called different ways of merges team, because it says that a pull rebase,
rebase, forward only. This is like a little advanced, but you see that this is the setting that you're going to make it, right? Whatever it is giving you. Choose the default strategy. That is what we want. This is the default merge option we wanted. Means we want to merge the code from the remote to the local right now. Now, once you set that configuration, now you do a git pull again one more time. Now, this time, when it is trying to merge the code from the remote to the local, now you see there is an error, it pops up called auto merging 4.java. Means it is getting to get the code from 4.java, trying to merge it. It says that conflict in the content. We'll talk about it later. Let's focus on the merge first of all here, right? Conflict the content, basically merge conflict in 4.java. It says automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, then commit the result again. Read the messages clearly, team, what all it is asking you. Now, when you do a git pull now, team, it was not able to get the code and commit or save the code properly in the local. It is getting that, but there is a confusion happen to the git. Now, if you do a git status, it would tell you that, hey, I'm confused. The git local is saying that, hey, I'm confused because both modified the 4.java, which means multiple people are trying to modify 4.java. Is it maybe any duplicate work happening? Maybe Git doesn't know, right? That is the reason, team, it conflicts it, right? Assuming that this can be a duplicate work done by the both developers, maybe working on the same code, that can cause some issues with the applications as well. So this is the reason, team, it says both modified 4.java, but it does not commit it. But what does it do is that, team, if you open the 4.java file, sorry, it's 4.java. So it gets the code and it updates in the local file. Remember, it is not merging the code, saving the code in the local repo, but the changes run from the developer one, it got it. Whatever is in the remote commit ID is this, remote changes this, it got into the same file in the local. See the local, it says, okay, this is in the local, but this is in the remote. Now, there can be a possibility, team, that both changes are appropriate. Means the way you can resolve this conflict is now that the developer needs to sit and check them manually, right? So here, assume that this is the actual code written by the developer two. This is the actual code written by the developer one. It is distinguished between this one. It says that, okay, this is the one. Remove these distinguishers, what it does. That is not the actual code. Now, this is the actual code. Now, the developers need to understand that is it a duplicate or not duplicate? There can be a possibility, team. Remember, the developer one modified the 80th line in the file. The developer two modified the 40th line. So in that case, both changes can be appropriate sometime because developer one modified the file for some other scenario. Developer two modified the file for some other scenario. So both are needs to be done anyway. So you can keep both the changes. Remember, the both changes can be kept like this and save the file. That's what you do. But some scenario where developers may work on the same code, sometimes it is a duplicate. If it is a duplicate and then you delete the duplicate values, whatever they are. Remember, keep the one copy, delete the duplicate copy, whatever it is, do it. And then again, save the file. That's your choice, team. How you want to do it, do it. But this is how you open the file, understand the code. I mean, you don't need to do this. Merge conflicts will be done by the developers if it is a real source code, right? So technically, we understand this way that developers will sit together, understand the code again, rewrite the code or modify the files accordingly. Now, once they save it, right? Once they update the file with the right code, and it says that you have to add and commit again. So git add dot git commit -m, right? And say that resolved a merge conflict. We call it merge conflict in the sense while you're merging the code, while you're adding the code from the remote to the local or local to the remote, it will actually happens. And this is how we resolve that. Now, when you resolve it, it will be a new commit again. Remember that it will add a new commit saying that there was a conflict with the commit ID here. This is the one locally, and the developer two modified and recommitted with the new commit. Now, once he does it, now he can start pushing it again, right? Now, once he made this clear, so he can start pushing back to the remote lead DevOps, and then you need to get the code, copy that, and paste it. Now that will allow him to push it now, understanding that there is a new commit where the resolve conflicts happen, whatever it is happen. Now, once you go here to the remote, now you see it is the change from root, right? It says the resolved merge conflict with 4.java, and you see the code from boot developers as a thing. That's okay. Now, once we are done this one here, now the developer one still needs to get the resolved conflict anyway. Now he can just do a git pull again, right? It gets the change done by the developer two again. This is the idea about it. So this is how team the merge conflicts can arise, and this is how you can actually start, working with these things, okay? And resolving the merge conflicts can be done by the normal things, okay? So this is the understanding team about the merge conflict and how do they arise and how do I resolve them. Any questions on the merge conflicts? Thank you, Shivaraj, for explaining that. That's right, Abhijit. -u means upstream. Upstream as such, what is the remote? Upstream is origin, upstream remote address. That is what we're giving it. Okay, Abhijit? That's what the idea, he's explaining it. -u means is the upstream. The upstream name is the origin. Okay. So any questions, team, everyone? Are we all clear with this? Great. So you all need to practice these things, team. So don't worry. I have all the scenario-based executions as well. I hope you guys are following it. Not sure. If you go to the Git folder, now I'll give you all those commands as well, definitely. But there is a work with Git local where you see the scenario-based executions. Use these things to practice while you're doing it, right? It will help you create something and then do this and do the necessary commands with explanation. I have it here. So check all the commits, local repository, again, everything. You have something here about the merge conflicts also I have given. The branching we need to discuss yet, right? So there is a merge conflict scenario. How does it arise and how does it work? So I have the clear explanation with all the commands that I'm doing, team, here. So try to implement the scenario-based execution when you get time using this file, so you will get to know the things accordingly one by one. As I said, team, on the day one. Great, Shivraj, thank you. So this is the idea. So yes, I have pinged everything in the chat window, Rahul. Okay, so everything is available under the Git repository that I shared for all the practical related stuff which you're doing it. Okay. So this is the idea, team. I hope you're all able to utilize those documents for practicing. Do it so you get more idea. Now, the next one, team, which I would like to talk, the next topic, once we're done with the merge conflicts. Now, let's start understanding about the topic called the branching. What is branching and why do we need branching in the Git repositories? So does anybody know about branching, team? Anybody would like to give me an idea? Why do we use branches? Yes, anyone? Multiple branches for multiple environments. Branches maintain a certain changes to certain people for a hierarchy. Right. So like folder. Thank you, Ashwin. That's a very simple understanding. Absolutely correct. So here, team, again, we are talking about, okay. Okay, good. So if example that you explained have two users and two lines of code merge, but in real time, more lines of a code when with multiple team members, wouldn't be tedious to merge manually multiple lines of a code and coordination. That's a great observation and question, Pendra. I mean, it is the developer thing, right? From the DevOps perspective, we are trying to understand the simple way, but the developer standpoint, you said is right. So they have some additional tools, the Git merge conflict visualization tools that highlights the code only. They use some kind of the additional tool that helps them understand the merge conflict in a visualistic way, where exactly the code is there, and it opens in a GUI mode as well. So they use that approach, understand the code, compare the code quickly, multiple lines, and then solve the conflicts. That's what they do it. Yes, again, that is like you need to use some advanced tools like editors or the IDEs to resolve the conflicts in a different way. But there are approaches, right? The simple way I explained it, but there is a way that they can visualize in a better way and they can start looking at it. Going through manually is tedious, as you said, that's absolutely right. Right, so great team. Let me explain the purpose of branching first of all here. So talking about the scenario here, team, we have, the understanding so far that we have a remote server where multiple developers will be collaborating always. A remote server, which is like GitHub in our case. Now here, team, remember, whenever we initializing a project, it can be my project under your account or anyone's. Now, by default, team, remember, the Git saves all the code into a specific idea or a folder, like a grouping, you call it. That's called as the branch, right? Now, you keep seeing, team, when we are running the git push command, we keep mentioning something called main. Remember, team, the main is the default branch name. Under that, it is like, understand that it is like a subfolder, right? It is subfolder under your my project. Say the my project is the main repository folder. It is not shown as a folder, but you see that there is a branches and there is a default branch called main. Now, whatever the code that you've been saving yesterday and today, you're pushing it. Now, everything is the saved in the default branch called as the main, whether it is on the local or the remote, doesn't matter. So that is what I'm talking right now. So the default branch, when you initialize a Git repository, is always either a master or a main. Remember, the default branch, either always it can be a master or a main. That is the default that gets initialized when you actually create something. Now, within this particular master branch or main branch is where you actually saving the code. Like you're saving the code, you're tracking the change tree, which means that you're tracking the multiple files, right? As the multiple commits, remember, multiple files, the changes are saved as the C1, C2, C3, and so on. Correct or not, team? Multiple commits have been saved with different files, different changes. We made it so far like this. Now, all these changes together, team, remember, like multiple commits, as I said yesterday, we tag them as a specific version. For example, now C1, C2, C3 become my version 1.0 like this, right? Now, this is the logical idea. Now, the same thing, team, remember, when the developers were working so far, right? Multiple developers, multiple team members who are working on their local servers, right? This is like this, multiple team members are working on the same project. Now, whenever they have the copy in their local team, since it is the distributed thing, now we said like in the local developer machines also, you find the same code exactly the same way, correct? Can I say that now? This is how you see it, the code so far in all the developer machine, including the remote repository, correct or not? Agree with me? Agree with me, team, everybody? This is what we see, right? Remote main branch, local main branch, developer 2 main branch. Everybody was using the same main branch technically. This was the default approach, but this may not work all the time, team, because when the project is growing, when multiple people are, n number of people are working on the same project, organizing the code, resolving these conflicts, right? Conflicts may arise again, pushing, pulling, multiple people working on the same project folders will become a tedious job for the developers, understanding that who is doing what again. So that is one scenario. The second thing is that assume that the once we released this code into the market, say you're running this code in the production server. Remember, you develop the application, you deliver the code application to the end customer. The end customer is using this application, means we deploy the code in a production server. Now, once the version 1 development is over, team, as we said, we work in an agile methodology, agile process. We keep adding the functionalities to the software every week or maybe every month. So once the version 1 release is done, team, say that the customer asked for a new feature development, and there were also some defects found in the existing version 1.0 code. So we also need to resolve those defects again and commit them as a new change, and you release the code again. But again, team, remember, in the real time, when you are developing on certain coding, certain things, we plan the release. Means that the developer or the customer will ask you, the client will ask you that, hey, I want this feature XY to be in the production again, by say that release the code by today's 17th March, say 30th March, I want this code in the production. That's the deadline that the client is giving you. Now, along with that, say that the defects are impacting the customers in the front, the original customers are impacting it. So this is a quick, immediate fix we wanted. So release this defect, say that by 20th March itself, means I have given you 3 days of time, you release it. So every work that is assigned to the developers team will have a deadline, and they have to plan accordingly, finish the development, and then also publish the code into the remote, and you release the code into the market. There is a cycle that goes every 2 weeks, every month. This is a realistic thing, we call it. So the idea here is that, team, if everybody is working like this, now remember, on 20th, I need to release the defect code. On 30th, I need to feature XY releases planned accordingly. Given a scenario that say that the developer 1 started working on a feature XY, which got more time, obviously, and say that the developer 2 started working on the defect code, for example, he's trying to resolve the problems in the version 1. Now, these guys, when they make changes again, remember that they already have the version 1.0 with them. But when they start making the change, say, because it's a parallel development team, remember, both of them are started working in parallel, because feature may take a longer time. It is all new feature development. Defects may take less time. So this guy started committing the code on the main branch in the local, like this, for example, right? And say that this guy also stated developing the defect code, and he also made some commits, something like this, right? Some commit, right? Commit name, it doesn't matter. What we committed in that matter, basically, right? Now, whenever they're done with the development team, assume that they are started publishing, right? Everyday team, it is recommended practice that every developer has to publish all the code into the remote like this. Say that on the remote branch now, I have the version 1.0 new feature code plus also the defect code available. Now, say that after 3 days of time from now, the developer 2 said, I've done, I push the code in the remote, you take the code and release it. Can we take the code and release now to the production? What do you think? Or can we go to the QA at least with this code? What do you think, team? Is that possible scenario? If I take the code, yeah, I'm saying to QA itself, have to do the QA. Now, when you do in a QA as well, testing the defects maybe, for example, yeah, assume that they don't want to test the feature, right? They just want to test only the defect. For example, in the QA as well, the developer said they completed, but in the development as well, or a QA as well, they have to test only the defect now, because that is planned for a release quick, right? So this is way, team, it will give a confusion that how do I take the version 1 plus defect code only? Isn't this a confusion now? Even if you want to release the code in the QA and have to test only the QA code, I mean the defect code, and with the version 1 working with a defect or not, then it also including the feature which is not completely developed, that will anyway problem out. Now, this kind of issues may arise when they go for a parallel development team. Remember, the parallel development can cause this kinds of the issues, basically. So to avoid this scenario, remember, to avoid this scenario, basically, what we ask to do or what exactly we do is that in a way, we don't ask the developers to work on the default main branches or the master branches. Tagging is also not a simple scenario, Srivani. Tagging is just for tagging a commit, right? But not about shuffling the commits again, getting the code. Like git pull will get all the commits anyway, right? They cannot get a specific commit from the remote if you want it. That becomes a tedious job to get the code and release the code. Not a scenario of tagging here. So the better practice or the best practice to be implemented is that we have to create branches. Now, what exactly is a branch here? What exactly is a branch here? Remember that team, we're going to make a copy of the main or a master branch, like they say defect. Now assume that when they copy that, a subfolder, copy that. So instead of modifying the original code, copy the code and modify the copied code, simple. So say that when we copy the code, say the defect branch, I'm creating it by making a copy, not a subfolder, it is a parallel with the master folder, you may call it. C1, C2, C3. And I say that I also create another one, feature XY. I also copied from the C1, C2, C3. Means, remember, I'm trying to copy the code of the main and I'm going to lock the main, right? Remember team, we will lock the main, lock the main branch, main code so that nobody can upload it, right? Now that is the what we do team in the real time. Locking the main branch is something. Now it is not same as a fork. Fork is from one account into another account. Now this happens within the same project on the same account itself. So this is the idea. Now let me show you how I create a branch here. So that here within the same project, now you see that now I have the default main branch. Now I don't want anybody to push to the main branch, right? First of all, on the top, you have a text box. You enter the branch name you want to create, say defect. Now it says that team create a branch defect from main, which means it is actually going to take a copy from the main and create another branch. Now you see that you see exactly the same code here. You have two branches called main and the defect. So if you want to switch between the branches, you select branch you want to switch to main. Now you see the same code again because they're exactly the same thing right now because we just copied it. Now you may create as many branches as you wanted based on the developers, based on the environment, based on the release that you plan. That is your choice how you do it. So technically team, we start creating the branches like this. Now multiple branches, remember. Now all these branches are exactly the same branch, same code. You have it on the remote right now. The remote in the sense it is the github.com where we have it. Now, once we have created the necessary branches, now we ask developers to take that specific branch. Say the developer one will now take the feature XY. Now in the local, remember, he may just take a simple feature XY branch only. He doesn't need to go and work with the main branch, and nobody is allowed to work with the main branches, remember. So feature XY, so he get the code C1, C2, C3. Now he may start developing in the local with the code, say F1, F2, feature related code, something. Now, similarly, the developer two gets the defect branch, right? Now he also gets the same copy, for example, C1, C2, C3, the original code from the main branch. Then he adds some code on the defect related D1, D2, and so on. But again, when they are pushing back the code, they have to update their own specific branch, or you may treat it as a folder. So here the D1, D2 updated. Now here the feature code is updated, F1, F2, right? Whatever it is. So the understanding is that team, now you have a clear picture on version 1 plus defect code and version 1 plus feature only code basically. Now, when the release date comes team, or we can simply go ahead with the defect branch, deploy the code into the servers and then release it. That's good, right? Now, this is easy for me now to release the code with a branch. Or in other words, you may release the defect branch team, but the other way around, you may merge the code from the defect branch into the main branch. Means you upload or you push the code. Say you updated D1, D2. I mean, it is your choice, team, the way you want to do that. You can release a defect branch or you can update the code, right? You can update the code from the defect branch into the main branch and start releasing the main branch again if you want it. That is the idea. Now, the feature development will continue till 30th March, right? Whatever it is, F3, F4, something. He starts working something continuously until it is run. Now, whenever the feature is ready for the release team, remember, before that, he needs to update the code, right? Remember, the developer first need to pull the D1, D2 into this one. That is one idea. So he gets the update of D1, D2 before he released. Remember, if anything got released before the feature, once you took a main copy, it is recommended that you get the code again from the main before the release always. So take that feature XY is taken something, and then you release this, right? So means that now the feature XY got the version 1 plus feature plus defect code, everything updated properly, you release it. Or it can be other way around, right? You can update this code directly into the main branch, updating all the feature code in the main branch, F1, F2, F3, F4, whatever it is, all the code. Now that becomes a new version, remember, right? That becomes a new version, which I'm releasing it, say version 1.5, maybe something. And then you release the main branch itself. That is the idea. So this is the logical understanding, team. Remember that this is a logical understanding about why the branching is required. Why the branching is required, that is what the understanding you have it. So when you have a parallel development, when you have multiple people are working on different things in parallel, the branching can help you segregate and plan application release properly. That is the logical idea. I hope you got some basic understanding why the branching is required. Just topic, team, why branching is required, how to implement branching, that we'll be talking now. So are we clear on why branching is required? Does Dev can pull the code from main to local repo? He can do that, Harsha. He can do that. The pulling is always there, only the pushing is restricted. Okay. Pulling you can do anytime. If I push from defect to GitHub, where it will update GitHub master artifact, you have to update the defect on the GitHub itself. I'll show you that, Vishal, again, right? You have to update the defect branch on the remote. That is the idea, okay? You cannot update the main branch anymore. Whatever the change that you will be doing it will be rejected because we'll be doing it. Now you can see that it also popping your message that your main branch isn't protected. Means that you can restrict now access to the main branch, that nobody can actually push a change to the main branch directly. The protections can be made, that we'll do later, but this is the simple idea now. Okay, so I hope the team, I'm clear on branching. The branching will help you in doing a parallel development, segregating the code as per the release, Siddharth, right? When you have multiple things doing in parallel, do not modify the original code. Take a copy from the original code, modify the copied code, and then once you're done, finish testing, then you merge back to the main. That is what the idea, right? I mean, if you have a realistic understanding, Siddharth, implementation of changes, right? If you have, if you fear something that you modifying an application on your system, you feel that it will crash, some file you're modifying it, assume that. Means if you modify it and then something that will break because of that modification and you have to roll back, what is a quick approach? First, we take a backup, isn't it? You take the backup of the file, yes or no, Siddharth? You take the backup, right? The original working copy is backed up, and then you modify the copy. That is what is happening here. Think about the master branch is a backup. The original code, which is working code, which is already released, is a backup. That is it. Do not touch that code. You copy that and then modify the code on the copied ones. You test everything is working fine, then you release it. That's it. That is called branching, right? Don't modify the original copy and then modify always the duplicated copy and then test it and then merge it back to the original copy if you want. Both old new version will be there, or it will be there. Everything will be there, Sweta. No old versions are deleted, right? They are the different tags only. Help also resolving conflicts, avoiding the conflicts to occur. There is a still chance the conflicts can occur, but it will avoid, right? Maximum it will avoid that. Okay, so with this scenario team, let's understand the quick way of getting the branch now. Assume that in the local team, remember the developers here, right? The developers here in the local have, sorry, this is not get clear, right? Just clear. Now in the local team, by default, we were also working on the main branch, the default main branch only. Now you may create a branch in the local as well if you want it, but we do not do in the real time team. Now the Git branch in the local will help you in listing all the branches available. You can create a local branch as well with a Git branch set test. Now this is also like, remember team, we are already on the main branch, the star mark. Now the Git branch test, right? It creates a new branch. Remember the local creates a new branch from local main branch here, as you can see that. The sim command, right? Now, if I hit a Git branch, you see that there are 2 branches available. It is just like copying that one. But again, how do I get a branch from the remote to the local? Right? There is a command T, we use it to fetch the data, fetch some branches from the remote to the local. Means take a remote branch and create in the local something that is also can be done. We use a command like a git fetch, right? So I do it as origin. Remember team, origin, I'm referring to the remote again, always the origin refers to the remote URL, always this one. So I'm saying that git fetch, right? A fetch a branch, something from an origin here. Now, what you're fetching from the origin is some branch. Remember, the branch should exist already here. Like we created 2 branches, defect and feature XY. So what I'll do it, I'll call that feature XY. Say I want to get fetch the remote or origin feature XY, then create separated a colon and then say feature XY. Remember team, this is the local branch and this is the remote branch. So what I'm telling it, git fetch command goes to the origin, looks at this report, this branch on the remote and creates exactly the same copy in the local branch with that. Remember team, right? This will create a branch, right? Using the remote branch. Remote branch, you may call it. Create a local branch. I can see that. Creates a local branch using the remote branch, but not using the local main again. Remember, this will create a local main branch copy. Now this is from the remote branch to this one. When I do this, you can see that it did something, a new branch created, a new branch updated here. Now, if I do a git branch, I'm showing multiple different approaches team. You may create a branch, but again, it is always that we do this. We first create a branch in the remote and take that branch from the remote. Never create branches in the local, and not a recommended approach, not a best practices we do it. But you see this team, we got the feature XY branch from the remote. That is, we got it successfully. Even if you want to get the other branch, means the developer can work on the different branches, different development as well. The same way he can get something like this, defect, and let's say that the defect again. Now you get the branches, whatever the branch you wanted from the remote, create a copy in the local like this. Now, once you get the branch from the remote and create in the local team, right? You just git branch will list the branches, right? List all local branches here. That is what idea is. Okay. The git branch will list all the local branches available, first of all. That is where you. Now, if I want to switch, now let me tell you, team, I have to switch because remember the star mark here refers to the branch that you are sitting in right now. Now the developer needs to work in the local, right, Amol? They don't work on the remote. Now they get a branch in the local and then they said, now you need to switch the branch team. Say that we do something called as switch. Now remember team, as of now, we are on the main branch, like switching the folders within the same project here. I do something like a git switch, say the feature XY I want to go. Now it says that simply switched to the main or a feature XY branch here, something. Now, if I do a git branch again, you see that we have switched from a main branch to the feature XY branch. This is how you get the things done, right? Now, if you want to know, as long as it is seeing like this, it is something like a local branch only. Now, if I want to see the different branches, local as well as remote, now you see that git branch -a. Now you see that the local branch is named as just feature XY. If it is a remote branch, it will see that remote's origin defect, remote's origin feature XY something. So anything that is just a name is always a local branch. Okay. Right. You can also do a checkout if you want. That is a different command. Checkout or switch one and same. Avira. But you see this team here, we switched to the local feature XY branch now, and we are sitting within the local feature XY branch. Now you see the code available. Now here team, let's say that I'm going to create a code, which is touch feature x.java. Now remember team, you keep changing the local again, git add dot, say git commit -m, say feature x something. Similarly, the developer making multiple changes, feature y, right, .java, git add dot, git commit -m, say feature y. Now remember team, whatever the changes that the developer is doing in the local are now confined only within the local feature XY branch only. No other branch will be reflecting these changes. Just to show you, git log -one line, if you do it, now that will clearly tell you. Here, you see the last commit. Remember again, origin mains means the remote main branch, remote feature XY branch, remote defect branch, the local main, local defect, local test branch are all at this position, means they have only till this point. The changes till this point, the commits till this point only. But you see that the local feature XY is now has some additional changes, additional commits. Now, if you want to check that again, let's switch back to the main or any other branch, you switch it, right? If I check the log, you don't even see those commits here. Do you see the commits on the main? Right. On the feature XY, we saw some additional commits. On the local main branch as well, we don't see additional commits at all. Means they are like separate folders. What is in the feature XY is just available in the feature XY. What is in the main is always available in the main branch only. Now, once you have such changes done team at any point of time, now I would like to upload these changes to the remote feature XY branch. Remember, whatever the changes I made in the local feature XY, I would like to upload it to the remote feature XY, right? Now, how do I do that? Simple. Now you do the same way, git push -u origin, or you may want to switch the branch if you are confused. I'd say, go to the branch team, git switch, right? And I say that the feature XY. Remember team, I'm switching back to the feature XY branch. Then you push it. Now, when you're pushing team, you say that -u origin feature XY. Now, remember team, you are sitting inside this feature XY branch, means whatever the changes in this local feature XY branch. Now, I would like to upload it to the origin feature XY branch. Now, earlier we were using main here, but right now I'm using as feature XY, which means we are pushing into the remote feature XY. Now you see, it says that it is syncing the local feature XY to the remote feature XY. Simple. Now, once you're done with this team, if you come here, if you refresh this one, now you see that technically the feature XY has something called feature x.java, feature y.java. These are the two changes that are present only in the feature XY. Now you also see there are 14 commits available on the feature XY branch, right? But if I switch to any branch here now, say main branch, that should not see that content. Like you see, you don't see that there is a feature X and feature Y files are missing here. And there are only 12 commits that are available. Means the feature or the main branch is behind the feature XY branch. Okay. Now this is how team we make changes in the local branches. The developer works on a branch in the local, updates their own local remote branch as well, like this, right? And the branches will help you in the parallel development. Now multiple people can have working in parallel, updating the code in the different branches on the remote. This is the idea. So far, am I clear, team, about how do you update this? Any questions? Does git pull only will update main branch, or what is the difference between a git fetch and a git pull? The git fetch will not get the changes, Vishal. Okay, git pull will get the changes. That is the difference. Remember that if you want a file from the remote and update the local, you have to use the git pull. The git fetch will just update some backend reference, but does not get any change from the remote to the local. Okay, that is what the difference you may call it. Okay, so again, team, here, once you're done with this, right? Let's say that team, how do I update changes now from the feature XY branch to the main branch? Remember, team, you cannot publish the changes in real time. Like I said, you need to protect, or the main branches are always protected. For example, say I'll change the settings here again, go to the settings, right? Now, under the settings team, on the left side, you have something called branches. You see under the code and automation, you have some branches. Click on the branches. You have the default main branch, or you want to add some branch protection rules here. Now you see that here, let's say that add branch to the protection rule, for example. If I click on it, now it will open up. Now here, team, what you need to see that, let's say I'm protecting the main branch, say main branch, the branch name which you want to protect. Even if you want to protect the feature XY, you may mention it. But let's say that we are trying to protect the main branch. Now I enter the branch name which I want to protect it. Now I'll say that how people can update changes to the main branch, which is like require a pull request before merging it. Now we'll talk about what is a pull request. Now this is in a way starts, rejecting the direct push to the remote or the main branch, we call it. Require a pull request team. That is one thing you can select here under the main branch. Now, along with this, you also can say that even the administrator, say that I'm the owner of the account team, administrator can bypass things, right? So do not allow bypassing the above settings. The above settings will apply to administrators and custom rules as well if you want. So that is one thing you need to select again. So ensure that team you select the require pull request for now and say that do not allow bypassing the above settings as well. Now, once you do it, say create this rule. Now, there is one branch which we protected here. Now, once this is protected like this team, remember, assume that if the developer is trying to push to the main branch from feature XY. Now, assume that developer is now trying to push to the main branch whenever he made some changes in local by mistake as well. Now, it says that I think it's already there, some code. Let's say that we'll make a change and we'll try to push, right? Origin main, it says that whatever is already there. So here, let's say that I'll switch it to the main branch again, git switch to the main branch. Say that I'll do a change, new.java, git add dot, and say git commit -m. right? Whatever it is, team say the new something. Now assume that if the developers are trying to push something like this, git push -u origin, right, main. Now you see that it starts erroring out, right? Now anybody who trying to update a main branch and push into the main branch, it says that remote is rejected. Now the error, it says that it is a protected branch, updates failed. Means that once a branch is protected, people cannot push anything directly to the main branch. That is not going to be possible. Okay. So assume that team, this is how the main branch will be locked out, right? A main branch will be locked out always in the real time. And nobody is allowed to push any changes to the main branch directly. That is one idea. Now, there is a reason we create a branch, a separate branch. We ask developer to work on a separate branch and upload the content always to their specific branch, like the feature XY, right? Now, this is the understanding. Remember always that now you switch the branch accordingly, whatever it is, you do it. This is what you see it. Now you can upload only the changes to your own specific branch always. That is how the main branches are protected. Now it says everything is up to date again because we already published. But the question here is that team, how the developer or how people now can update the code from the feature XY to the main branch. Now this is where team, remember, one last thing for today, so please bear with me here. Now here team, one last thing, that whenever a developer now wants to update this feature code into the main branch, the developer has to use the contribute option here. Now if you click on the contribute option on the feature XY branch, it says that this branch commits 2 commits ahead of the main always. Now you can create something called as the open pull request. Remember team, since there is no direct push available to the main, we pull the code into the main, or the persons who have access can pull the code into that main. It is like you pull from remote to the local, but this is from the one branch into another branch in the remote itself directly. It says that compare, if there is a merge conflict will happen while merging the code team, it will rise here itself. So we are telling that a feature XY going into the main. Create a pull request. Remember team, pull request is something, it's a notification to the owner of the main branch. Remember again, the pull request is a notification, some kind of the request you are making to the owner of the main branch who actually is allowed to merge the code into the main branch. That is what it is doing. Now the owner will see this notification. There is a developer asking to pull the code. He will open it. Now here he gets a flexibility of looking at the code before merging it. Resolve all the configs before the merge, everything you do it. Files modified by the developer, feature X, feature Y, what code he has written, everything is done. Now he will review the changes, right? All good, something. The person who is actually responsible for merging the code into the main will have to review the changes mandatory. Sometimes they may want to approve the changes as well. They submit the review. Now, once they submit the review, that will give a notification back to the developer, giving the rights to the merge, right? Now you see that the person who reviewed it said, hey, your changes are looking good. Now you can go ahead and merge the things into the main branch. The developer again gets a notification back that your changes have been approved. You can now merge. Say merge the pull request simply. Now confirm the merge, something that the changes now being updated from the feature XY branch into the main branch, and the main branch is locked again with the latest code. This is the idea, right? So this is how team you can understand about how the developers will work in the real time about branches for the parallel development. Okay, so I know team, this is a lot today. I know we took some additional time as well. I'm sorry for that, but I'll stop here talking. I hope you all have understood the concepts. The only thing you need is that team, you need to start working on these things. But to be honest team, if I tell you honestly, if you are going to be a DevOps engineer only, not a developer, you really need not to, work on this branching concept, because it is the developer's role mostly, that developer's responsibility to understand branching, understand working with it. As a DevOps engineer, you just use the repository given by them, take the code. So you don't create branches in real time. You may not create, you may not update branches like this regularly in the real time. So just giving an idea, this is some additional information to you all as a DevOps engineers. If you are not a developer, if you are a developer, then yes, you still have to learn a more deep dive of all these things accordingly. This is just a high level understanding about what is branching, why do we need branching, how branching will help you in making a parallel development, segregating the code properly as per the releases planned by the dev teams mostly. That is the idea. With this being said, I stop here. And thank you so much again, everybody. You got 3 days gap after this stream. Today is Friday, so Saturday, Sunday, and Monday will be a gap. And the session will be on the next Tuesday again. Whatever we did, you have to practice everything well. All the things are being documented on the GitHub repository. Working with remote, working with local, everything I have documented with a clear explanation about branching, everything, right? So try to implement the things by your own, following this by next session so that you get clarification on everything. So thank you all, team. Have a great weekend ahead. I'll see you next week again with more content. Okay, so we will push the code to production if everything good. Then we will merge code to main branch. There are strategies for that, Veera. Different approaches your teams may follow, not always the way you set it. You may release defect first and then update main branch, or you may first merge it into main, then you release it. Now, there are some approaches, there are some Git workflows followed by the dev team. They may choose any approach. It is not a particular standard practice, depends on the project, it will change accordingly. Are we done with GitHub, GitHub topic? Mostly done, Upendra. Mostly done, yes. Okay. For yesterday class session, you gave the name as Jenkins. Can you please change it to Git? That's not in my control, Vishal, but I'll update the team to update it accordingly. Okay. No more Git sessions. I think there will be hardly next 30 minutes of discussion we'll have on the Git next week, Ashwin. Then we will move on to the Jenkins. Have you deal with Azure DevOps as well? I'm not Azure person, Veera, specific. I work mostly on the AWS and Google. So my career didn't touch the Azure yet. Sorry. How to do assignment. Don't worry, Shubham. The technical team will contact you on implementing the assignments. You just follow the guides. If you're not able to, I mean, you know that you all go to the LMS, right? lms.intellipat.com, whatever it is. Let me log in. What is the password that I used here? I think it is my Gmail. Just give me a second. IntelliPat. Just give me a second, team. I usually log in with Google. Okay, it's already logged in. Okay, so I'm going to this one. Why is it asking me to log in again? I don't understand. No, this is something new. Let me log out and log in, team. I'll just give me a second. Log out. Log out. Log in with my Google. I'll click on my courses. Those who wants to leave the session, team, they can leave. Okay, no questions. Understand if you can guide how to do, it would be fine. No, the understanding how to do in the sense you need to read the instruction and implement it, right? The understanding is always that. I mean, what do you mean by you guide me, right? That's what I'm just trying to understand here. So if I go to the live class, not sure if the assignments are. So for example, if I click on the assignment one, whatever it is, right? Now it shows something to you. Just trying to understand, Shubham. The understanding is that if you go here, it says that assignment like this. Now it says that create a folder. You know what is a command. Put the following files in that, like we created. Stage the code.txt output.txt, like git add these files, commit them. That is what it's saying, right? It is a step by step. If you followed my things, now based on what you have learned in this class, do the following steps. Create a folder, this one. Isn't this easy? Do you need my help, or means what guide you want me to do here? Means if you read this one, if you're not able to understand something in the assignment section, then you ask me, hey, this is what I see in the assignment. I did not understand. Can you explain? Now, if you do that way, then I can explain it. So this is what it is again. Create a Git working directory, feature one, feature two, create branches, develop feature one, something like it talks about. So just read this one. If you're not able to implement it, Shubham, and if you're not able to understand any statement here, then ask me like, hi, this is the assignment two where I'm not able to understand something. Can you go over it? Then I'll help you accordingly. Can we do that way, right? Yes, Shubham, I believe you're, yeah, please, you have to try yourself first of all here, what is given. Then it will be easy for, because we cannot go through one by one, right? Yeah, do this one and get back to me. Can you suggest me CLI for Windows apart from AWS? For what purpose, Harsha? For what purpose? What purpose and what CLI? How to share? I think in your LMS again, you have a way that to submit your project, submit your this one. If you go to the support team here, Shubham, right? You just have to create a new ticket, and whatever the things you did it, upload it here. Create a new ticket, and there is an attach file option. Just put everything into a document and upload here. Somebody will review and get back to you if there is something you need to understand. You can also talk to me in the session if you're not able to talk to the support team. That's what you can do. Command line interface to practice GitHub. Yeah, that will be the mostly the DevOps admin only. Manishankar, I'm sorry. Yeah. Mostly towards the this is the only part we'll understand again. This is a minimum requirement for every DevOps engineer. So we are discussing the minimum of this one. A basic of what we did until before the Git branching, Ashwin, right? A basic understanding of Git before Git branching. That is what all you need to do. Thank you, guys. Harsha, again, the CLI on your Windows machine for implementing, writing the Git commands is the Git bash, right? I mean, don't confuse with the AWS CLI. You mean to say that AWS VM maybe. Now you're talking about this AWS VM, if I'm right, correct? MobileXTEM is to connect to a remote server, okay? Remote Linux machine connectivity, you use MobileXTEM as a tool. MobileXTEM is not for AWS. It can be any Linux server running in any of the, cloud, doesn't matter. Anywhere on your prem also doesn't matter. Now the understanding for you, Harsha, this is called the AWS server where we installed the Git client, right? Now, if you want to run the same Git commands on your Windows machine, like now this is my Mac, right? This is my Mac machine, not logged into my remote. I can run the Git commands here as well. I have specific Git version installed, whatever I did it, the way I installed my something. Now, how did I install the Git client and I'm running the Git commands on my Mac? Because I followed the instruction from here. So if you go to the Windows, Harsha, here, click on the Windows here, it will say that you need to install Git for Windows, right? So 64-bit for this one and this one. If you install this particular thing, download it, it will download an exe file, run it. You know how to run an exe file, I believe. Just run it, so it will start. Once you install it, then you go to the search box, like the run or your start, right? Your start button. Look at something called as a Git bash. It will give you a terminal there, just like the Windows related one. It will give you, okay? So you just have to launch that Git bash launch terminal on your Windows directly. Start executing the commands on the Windows server directly, okay? That's what you can try, okay? Now that is, I think I have given here as well in the Git. Not sure if I talked about the Git bash setup. Yeah. So if I go here, this one, Ansible, sorry, cloud, where exactly? So here, AWS, I think I don't have one about the Git bash. Sorry. Yeah, I'll create a guide for the Git bash, maybe if possible, but it's not there. Okay, so that's all about it. I hope you're all clear again. So have a great weekend, team. I'll see you all next week again. Take care.